Hey guys, I'm Daniel Bergman, Fly Dressing. Welcome back to Thai TV. Today I'm gonna try to show you, I'm gonna show you a really cool sort of worm style Ned pattern that I've been fooling around with quite a lot. Super cool fly with not that many different materials. It's mainly made out of rabbit fur, a little bit of foam, and some flashaboo chenille. Probably gonna have some underwater clips here as well, but it stands like this and has a little fluorescent foam tail that floats and sort of waves in the water. Really seductive to especially perch, I would say, here in Scandinavia. It would probably work on bass as well. You can fish it really slow, or you can choose to sort of fish it more like a jigging fly. If you have sort of a floating line and a long leader, you can actually pull it and you get the really nice jigging action, or just drag it slowly on the bottom with a sinking line. Typical sort of Ned fishing, where you just stir up some stuff from the bottom and fish find that and they inhale the fly. Let's get going. A funny thing with this fly is, like with Game Changer styles pattern, is that you actually have to start with the tail. So what I'm gonna use for making the tail is one of these micro spines, just 6 millimeters long. I think this is actually a little bit easier than the dedicated tail shanks that they have, since I'm going to tie in a foam cylinder. And I place the round loop in my vise. It's super small. And I'll start off with 50 denier power thread here in black. Just tie in the thread, make sure it's secure there and doesn't slip. Hey Nicholas, can you toss me my foam cylinders?
Yes.
I always forget something.
Here you go, sir.
Thank you. 2.8 millimeter fluorescent orange foam cylinders. That's what's gonna be the floating part of the tail. I cut off like 2 centimeters or 1.5 or something. I usually take a little bit too much because you can trim it afterwards. And now you need to think everything in reverse, since this is what's gonna be pointing backwards. So I tie in the foam with first it's hard to, it's so small, it can be tricky to actually hit the shank. Loose turns first, just carefully compress the foam. Make sure you have it in the right place. And then increase the tension and compress the foam. Actually helps quite a lot if you pull it a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's good. And let's see now. I'm gonna have some of this Palmer chenille in medium. This color is called Rootbeer. It's a really nice color combined with olive. Get a good sort of motor oil overall impression. Let's see if I can find that's the right end. Take just a little bit of this, just enough to hold. Just gonna do a couple of turns with this, just to add some bling to the tail. 1, 2 turns, tie it off. Cut off the excess, fold all the fibers backwards. Now I'm gonna take just a little patch of rabbit, Zonker. I trim off the skin part, be gone. And I measure it in, so I have like 1.5 centimeters pointing forward. Cut off the excess. Try to spread it around the shank before tying it in. And I tie it in facing the wrong direction. So it's actually facing forward, or the tips are pointing forward. So it's a reverse tied. Make sure it's secure there. And I fold everything backwards. It actually helps quite a lot if you moisten your fingers. Make just a small head in front of the Zonker. And just a couple of quick whip finishes. In front of everything. There we have the tail. Now it's all soaked, but it's gonna look better later on. So there we have the tail done. Just leave it there for now. And now on to the actual hook. And the hook I'm gonna use is the Ahrex FW550. It's called mini jig, and it's the size 4. Usually use either size 4 or size 2 if you're gonna tie some bigger flies, but 4 is usually good enough for perch. And the important thing with this hook is the angle of how the hook is bent. Can't remember exactly if it's 60 degrees or something, but this together with a dumbbell makes it stand in the correct way on the bottom. I'm gonna use quite big dumbbell eyes just to get it down quite fast. Can't really remember the exact measurement. I know the model is called I-Balz, but you can find it in the description anyway. So okay, I'm gonna continue with the 50 denier for a while. Make a solid base of thread on the bent part in front here. Put some super glue on there. Don't overdo it, but just a little bit. Then I take the dumbbells, place them on top of the shank, and crisscross a few turns with the thread until it sort of is placed where you want it. And then you can start figure 8 wrapping in all eternity. Crisscrossing back and forward around the hook bend or the hook underneath here. And every now and then I actually take a couple of turns underneath, like between the eyes and the shank, to tighten up the figure 8 turns I've done previously. You can actually also change direction if you feel like the eyes are sort of turning a little bit. You can do a couple of turns underneath with thread in the opposite direction to adjust it. And then finally, when you feel that the eyes are sort of stuck there, you take some glue, place it carefully on the thread with your bobbin and thread horizontal. You don't want that glue to run down into your bobbin because then it's ruined. And carefully wind to make a good glue base all the way in there. It's a little bit tricky with this bent hook eye. That should do it. Okay. Bunch of extra turns to make everything sit nicely. And then just a quick whip finish. And the fly is done. No, just kidding. I'm just gonna swap thread. I'm gonna swap to the 100 denier because we're gonna use this to spin the body with, and needs to be quite a strong thread because we're gonna spin the body quite hard, and you don't want to risk the thread breaking. That can be a real bummer. I wind all the way back and I stop just behind the barb. A little bit of glue, starting to sound like a pike fishman. And then we make a really long dubbing loop. Close it with a couple of turns and secure it there. Then I go forward with the thread and just let it hang. Okay, now I'm gonna need a little bit more space, so I have to move. Almost forgot. We need to put the tail on. Just thread it through the eye. Then we can leave the loop hanging here for a little while because we've got some prep work to do now. I'm gonna use the largest size of magic tool. This is the Magic Tool Magnum. And as I said before, the body is made up of two materials. Rabbit Zonker. This one is olive with a little barring. Really cool color. I'm gonna place this as you, if you haven't used a magic tool, I'll explain this quite thoroughly. I take the strip between my fingers and I pull it down the crease that we have in the middle. It's a good thing to actually help a little bit with your other fingers. Now we have all the fibers trapped inside the table clip here. I cut off the excess. And I usually take a bodkin and help the fibers stand like a 90-degree angle from the skin. You take the paper clip or material clip and transfer all the Zonker into this. Open the table clip. Adjust the skin so you can make sort of an even cut. You take a long scissor. That helps a lot. You don't have to do that many cuts. You can get a nice even edge. Perfect. Okay, now we can take my dubbing spinner. Let's see if we can find the middle. There we go. Hang the spinner in the thread. Okay. Either you can moisten up the thread, or you can use a dubbing wax just to make sure or maximize the chances that the material stays where you want it when you place it in the loop. So I rub it up and down with wax. And then I'm gonna open the loop. Take my Zonker fur, place it in the loop as close to the butt ends as possible with the thread. Close it. Make sure the loop is closed all the time. Then I take my tail and pull it all the way up and try to, now I leave my dubbing spinner hanging there with a little bit of tension. Now I'm gonna prepare the glitter. It's actually, if you have 2 sets, it's of magic tools, it makes the job much easier actually. This is a little bit more exciting. Same thing as with the Zonker, just pull the material down in the table clip. Cut off the excess. Pull the fibers out so you can catch them with the material clip. And cut the cord from the chenille away. You don't want anything of that left, because that is gonna screw up your dubbing loop quite a lot. Okay, there we go. Here you also have the possibility to adjust the length of the fibers. I want them a little bit shorter than the full length of the medium chenille, but not as short as the small one. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna try to take my loop here without losing all the fur. Keep tension. And my tail here actually helps keeping the loop slightly closed. Transfer the flash to the loop. Carefully move it as close to the tail as possible. You don't want a gap in between the material and the tail later on. Okay, now let's get spinning. Start carefully. Now it should stay there. Now we can put some, whoops! That was interesting. This is going well. I was lucky I actually caught the loop. No problem. I'm gonna spin this really hard. And after a while, you can feel the dubbing spinner actually starting to climb closer to your finger. You can help pushing the tension of the turns upwards by squeezing the thread between thumb and pointing finger. And this is why I use the 100 denier instead of the 50, because the 50 would probably break now. Spin it good, spin it good. That should do it. Okay, now I take my tail, move the flash and the fur together, and let it spin around each other. I'm gonna help this a little bit more later on when I've tied it in. And I measure how long I want the body to be, or the tail. Something like that. That's maybe 7 or 6 centimeters. Keep the loop closed. Go back with your tying thread and tie in the loop. There we go. Now everything is secured. Make sure you have the tie-in point where you want it. I'm gonna take one of these little brushes from Hairline and try to brush out the fur and the flashy fibers. And this also help increase the spinning when you get all those tangled up fibers loose, or not all, but many of them at least. Okay, tail part done. That was an adventure. Okay, I'm gonna do one more dubbing loop. So this is gonna be the front of the fly. Go forward with my bobbin. Just leave the loop hanging there. I'm gonna prep a little bit more of Zonker and some yarn. And now what I do, since I don't need as much as I needed for the tail, I don't need like twice the length of this. I take both the Zonker and the polymer chenille together and pull them down the table clip of the magic tool. And now we have the fibers from both the chenille and the Zonker trapped in here. Make sure you get a good amount of rabbit fur in there. I cut off the excess on the sides. I leave a little bit of extra so I can squeeze that in the material clip. Now we're gonna transfer this whole shebang into the material clip. Excellent. Oh, I have some crap there. Good, good. And I help a little bit with my bodkin just to make sure that the core from the yarn is sort of level with the skin from the fur. So when I cut it off, I get as much of both materials as possible. And the same thing goes here. It's very important to not get anything from the core braid or the skin of the Zonker, because that is gonna screw up the dubbing loop completely. Okay, now when I'm only gonna get one clip of material into the loop, I don't really feel like there is no need to wax the thread. It's actually easier to adjust the material in the loop so you have it where you want it without the wax. Keep tension, spin the dubbing spinner carefully to begin with, tighten it, and now it is locked in position. Now you can start spinning faster. Not too fast, because then you might drop it as I did last time. Okay, that's good. And now you can, meanwhile, while you're spinning, take a pause in between, brush the fibers out, so you don't make a big ball out of everything. That should be enough. Now everything is nicely set in there. Now we just wind this forward. Don't have to be super exact with getting really touching turns. Just cover the hook shank and make sure you have enough material left to crisscross between the eyes and make sort of a really furry ball head. Can actually help to brush a little bit extra. Cover all those thread wraps and finish in front of the dumbbells. Try to see where you have the hook eye. That can be a mess. That's good. Try not to cut your thread, just I said, try not to cut your thread. And that's exactly what I do. That's what, like, reverse psychology. Don't do that. And that is exactly what happens. Okay, so it's actually not much of a problem. There we go. Thread is nicely in place again. And we secure it once more in front of the dumbbells. Let's see if we can. Yes, there we have it. I'm gonna try to clear the hook eye and do some sort of a finish here. Can actually help if you turn the fly upside down. There's a lot of stuff going on in front here. That should do it. That's good. One and two for security. Well, that was a lot more exciting than it needed to be. But it's good to show some of the don'ts as well, don't you think? Then I take my brush and abuse it a little bit to get it as buggy and as much fur out as possible. And there we have it, a Ned Worm Fly. We're gonna have some underwater footage where you can see that this one will float and stand like this. And then there will come a lot of really nice perch and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Okay guys, you know the drill. If you want to win this fly, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below here, and you can be the lucky guy who catch your personal best perch on this one. Okay, until next time, see ya.